Under the glare of the neon tube lights, my hands trembled against the unfinished guitar. My knees nudged the wooden workbench in my uncle's Bandra studio, the hum of the city beyond filtered by the sweat-soaked curtains. A dozen relatives and neighbors pressed in, breathing down my neck with their mixture of curiosity and skepticism. My Uncle Ravi held up my freshly carved classical guitar, turning it this way and that like a detective eyeing a cheap counterfeit. Silence scraped my nerves raw. The walls echoed with the clacking of someone's chai spoon against a glass. My mother stood off to the side, wringing a dupatta in anxious hands. My cousin Sunil, always eager for a show, leaned against the shelf stacked with ancient tablas and battered harmoniums. Vijay, Uncle Ravi finally exhaled, his lip curling. This is what you've been locked up making, this, what do you call it, Spanish dream. He ran a thumb along the fretboard. My carvings, small paisley and peacock flourishes, gleamed in the dusty light. It's a classical guitar, I managed. My words felt sticky on my tongue. I want to be a luthier, it's my passion. Someone behind him snorted, passion beater. For building toys, Auntie Mina, never subtle, she elbowed my father who looked away, jaw set. Sunil picked up the thread. Yeah, I've heard of engineers, doctors, even software geeks. But this, he pantomimed, strumming, managing to look both foolish and disdainful. I gripped the bench till my knuckles whitened. The studio was stifling, musty with mounds of rotting sawdust and last year's monsoon. I ran my tongue over cracked lips. The urge to defend myself burned in my throat, but fear crept along my skin like the damp. If I faltered, they'd never let me forget it. People order custom guitars from all over the world, I said, hating the quaver that crept in. I could build something beautiful, something that matters. Laughter swooped into the sudden pause. Uncle Ravi rammed the guitar back onto the bench and walked away, muttering about wasted family time. If that's what you want, fine, he tossed over his shoulder, but don't come to me begging for work, Khan. The crowd evaporated. Only Beena, my little sister, lingered, shooting up a conspiratorial thumbs up before scurrying after the adults. I stared at my guitar as the jeers faded, sawdust and humiliation caught in my breath. Outside, the Mumbai evening bellowed with auto-rickshaw horns and tangy street food smoke. My chest ached, but in that ache a stubborn ember glowed. Fear and shame pressed in so tightly they became something new, defiance, raw and unyielding. Father didn't say a word as we walked back to our cramped chawl. I could feel his disappointment in every footstep, his silent calculation of my future as something barely worth a mention. That night I lay awake long after midnight, fingers splayed over blisters, imagining the laughter ringing out every time someone mentioned my name. But I didn't stop, I couldn't. Every morning before the sun breached the jumbled towers of the city, I practiced. In our single windowless room, I sanded, cut, glued. It did not matter that the neighbors gossiped about the good-for-nothing boy who plays with wood. When the city stirred, I worked repair jobs, fixing broken sarodes or restringing ancient sitars for the local music shop, earning just enough to justify my existence in my own house. My mother pressed rotis into my hand and whispered, "Bus, beta, maybe try bank exams also, no." But she let me keep working. At nightfall, when the family slept, I drew blueprints by candlelight, poring over foreign magazines, tracing the lines of guitars I would never afford to buy. Years unspooled like a coil of maple veneer. Friends joined call centers or migrated abroad. Sunil, now a property broker, bought a new SUV he liked to park noisily outside our building. I ignored him, fixing the intonation on a cheap guitar, telling myself that soon something would break in my favor. It didn't, not for a long time. My savings evaporated on imported spruce and the odd black market truss rod. Worse, every mistake reeked of failure. My voices of doubt grew inventive. Why not just give up? When did you become so arrogant, thinking you were special? The world doesn't need another luthier from Mumbai. But then at the music shop, I met Jacob Fernandez. Jacob was a Goan jazz guitarist, stylish even in the Mumbai heat, with a beard perfectly trimmed and fingers as graceful as silk dancers. He brought in a battered old Gibson for a fret replacement. My hands shook as I worked, he noticed. "You love the wood, no?" he asked. I nodded, heart pounding. I was used to ridicule, not recognition. "Let's hear yours sometime." I showed him my guitar secretly after closing time. He strummed a few chords and smiled wide. "You have magic in your fingers, man, never stop building." A bolt of belief raced through me. He gave me his card and promised to spread the word. He did. In the months that followed, musicians, some middling, some minor celebrities, came to me for custom jobs. Word trickled through the city past the boundaries of my old colony. Still, the family clung to their skepticism. I was the oddity, the dreamer, a cost to be carried. Sometimes I wondered if I'd only moved a step beyond ridicule into polite, distant disappointment. Then came the day that changed everything. A producer for Z Marathi, Rohan Deshpande, walked into the music shop. Rumor had it he was looking for a signature instrument for a major new musical, something distinct. Jacob recommended me. Deshpande was impatient, sharp-edged. He leafed through my sketches, ran his hands over tonewoods, gave nothing away. I showed him my best work, a Sprusun Cocobolo guitar, custom-carved with motifs of the Mumbai skyline and peacock feathers along the headstock. He plucked 2 strings, then 3, his head cocked. He grunted, "We're filming next month. If you deliver the instrument and it beats the imports, your name goes on the credits." Feverish weeks followed. I ate and slept in my workshop, haunted by every earlier humiliation. The old jeers replayed in the back of my mind as steady as background music. I surfaced, only long enough to breathe steaming tapri chai or buy more sandpaper. The instrument was no longer only a guitar, it was my chance to return, not as a joke but as proof. Late at night my mind would spiral with anxious doubts. What if it cracked? What if I'd overreached? Still, whenever my hands faltered, I remembered Jacob's words, "Magic in your fingers." I pressed on. On the day of delivery, I wrapped the guitar in cloth, hands numb and sticky, and took a crowded local train to Filmalaya Studios. Musicians, actors, and directors buzzed around in clouds of perfume and cellophane. I found Deshpande holding court. He waved me over and gestured to the show's lead, a pale, fragile woman named Sushma Rao. The music director, a rangy young man with tired eyes, leaned in to watch. I handed Sushma the guitar. She cradled it, her thumb tracing the skyline inlaid into the body. She played an arpeggio, slow, searching. The studio stilled. The notes rose, pure, vibrant, floating up toward the skylights. Sushma played again, slower now, and sang. The room fell away, the red reading light on the camera, Deshpande's measured breathing, even the stinging self-doubt. When she was done, she looked up, eyes bright with surprise. "It sings," she whispered. "It feels alive." Deshpande clapped me on the shoulder, then began making calls. Within a month, I had orders enough to quit the repair shop. Within a year, my name was printed in magazines, on the back of album covers, inside glossy festival brochures. I shipped my first international order, a flamenco guitar bound for Madrid. The city's immense voice, so often a wall between me and my dream, now sang with opportunity. And yet, every night as trains thundered through the distance and my family tiptoed past my closed workshop door, I remembered that old Bandra studio. The bitter steel of rejection never entirely left. I let it fuel me, hone my craft, until every detail was worthy not just of applause, but of the memory of every jeer they'd thrown. 3 years later, a magazine tagged me as Mumbai's master of strings. Industry folk came calling, other luthiers, university students, even a minor Bollywood star seeking a custom travel guitar. I rented and then bought a bigger workshop. My father padded around in disbelief, saying cautiously to his friends, "My son, he's got this small business, yes." But my uncle Ravi and Sunil, they had not seen anything since that awful studio critique. They remained distant, untouched by my little ripples, aunties still telling the same jokes, the old Bandra neighbors holding the same fixed opinions. When my sister called to say our cousin Taran was marrying, I felt a rush of jagged excitement. He wanted the wedding at the old family compound, the same place where they had picked apart my first guitar. "Nana wants you to bring one of your fancy pieces for the celebration," Bina added. "Some music for the ceremony, you know." I hung up my chest, a storm of nerves and hard nostalgia. This was it, the return with all the world-worn edges and secret scars intact. On the afternoon of the wedding, Bandra's alleys bustled with chaos, processions, bursts of marigold, the distant pulse of dole jazzed up with Bollywood remixes. I carried 2 guitars in their velvet-lined cases. Their satin wood shone beneath layers of polish, Spanish and Indian motifs waltzing across the grain. People stared as I lugged them in, bystanders, old neighbors, even an auto driver who squinted as if recognizing me from somewhere. Inside, relatives milled around in starched kurtas, faces wearing varying shades of polite surprise. My work now traveled ahead of me. An aunt hissed, "Naya paisa lagta hai." Some cousins eyed the cases, nervous, unsure. Sunil swaggered over, sunglasses hooked into his neckline. "What's up, Vijay? Ferrari inside, is it?" His joke fell flat, but he nudged me as if we were old friends. I brought something for Taran's Sangeet, I said, opening the first case and revealing the gleaming flamenco guitar. Uncle Ravi's face tightened. I watched his eyes move over the wood, the precise inlay, the delicate tuning heads. The partitioned memory of my old shame and his scorn flickered behind his gaze. We'll see how it sounds, he said, as if bracing himself for more disappointment. Taran waved me over, his bride beaming nervously, her hands ribboned with intricate henna. Play something? He asked. Everyone's talking about your interviews, Baya. I nodded, fingers cool and steady as I tuned. Old men shuffled in closer, aunties whispered. I launched into a raga blending flamenco forms with Hindustani strains, letting the custom pickups carry every nuance. The air in the room changed, the crowd stilled, transfixed. The melody soared out, pure and resonant, floating above the drone of the city. When I finished, applause crashed in. Cousins who once laughed as I whittled scrap would now clamored for selfies. Auntie Mina dabbed a tear, muttering to her neighbor. For the Sangeet, a professional guzzle singer lifted my other guitar. This is yours, he asked, eyes wide as he plucked an open chord. It's like playing silk. As he played, my uncle and Sunil drifted over. Ravi lifted the instrument from its stand, cradled it as a jeweler inspects a rare gem. He held it up to the light, tracing his thumb along the fretwork, delicate and seamless, paisley and peacock gleaming more proudly than before. For a long time he said nothing. Finally, quietly, a tone I'd never heard, he spoke. It's beautiful beta, solid work. Around him, the family pressed closer, all the old mockers now looking at the guitar, not at me. Some, I think, hung their heads. Sunil clapped my back. "Ah, you've made it, boss, proper international style." There was admiration, if not entirely understanding, in his voice. Others rattled off requests. "Can you make one like this for my son? How much for a beginner's model? Tell him Ramesh is a big musician now." I stood there, awash in the warmth and awkward pride of this odd, full-circle moment. Beena came over, squeezing my shoulder, her grin radiant. Outside, the lights of Mumbai blazed into the evening, just as distant trains thundered across the city. I stepped out onto the tiny balcony, heart thumping. The familiar tangle of fear and defiance had changed into something quieter, deeper, acceptance. I had brought something new into the world, and against the odds, I'd carried it home. The doubtful voices had faded, replaced by something closer to awe. That night, after the wedding wound down, I packed up my guitars. Uncle Ravi intercepted me at the door. "Next month, come see the workshop," he said, tentative but sincere. "Can you show me how you do the peacock inlay?" I nodded, smiling at this tiny truce, this olive branch across old wounds. The city beyond bustled on, heedless, but within me something had finally come to rest. The dream, laughed at and ridiculed, had survived. It sang loud, clear and unbroken. Across the place I first learned how much it hurts to want something desperately enough to risk being nobody at all.